The infamous dictator of early 20th century Germany, Adolf Hitler, was appointed the Chancellor of Germany after a series of victories in elections for the Nazi Party. Upon achieving power, Hitler smashed the nation's democratic institutions and transformed Germany into a war state intent on conquering Europe for the benefit of a greater Germany. His invasion of Poland on September 1, 1939, triggered the European phase of World War II. He had the active support of the powerful German officer class and of millions of everyday citizens who had voted for the Nazi Party and hailed him as a national savior in enormous stadium and citywide rallies. During the onset of the First World War in 1914, a young Adolf Hitler enlisted in the German army. He was placed in the 16th Bavarian Reserve Infantry Regiment and served as a runner, taking messages to and from the front line. Hitler was injured twice in the war, and whilst he was in hospital recovering from his second injury, an armistice was declared and the war was over. He and other patriotic Germans were outraged and humiliated by the harsh terms of the Treaty of Versailles, the peace settlement that ended the war which the Allies compelled the new German government, the Weimar Republic, to accept along with an obligation to pay $33 billion in war reparations. Germany also had to give up its prized overseas colonies and surrender valued parcels of home territory to France and Poland. The German army was radically downsized and the nation forbidden to have submarines or an air force. Paying the crushing reparations destabilized the economy, producing ruinous runaway inflation. By September 1923, 4 billion German marks had the equal value of $1 American dollar. Consumers needed a wheelbarrow to carry enough paper money to buy a loaf of bread. In January 1919, locksmith Anton Drexler and journalist Karl Harrer founded the German Workers' Party. This party was formed from a group who had previously met regularly to discuss political matters. The party advocated a range of ideas, including hostility to the Treaty of Versailles, nationalism, and a concern about the nation's moral standards and changing culture. Adolf Hitler joined the German Workers' Party in September 1919. He was unimpressed by its lack of organization and set about transforming the group. He became responsible for recruitment and propaganda and organized larger party meetings and rallies where he would give speeches. His oratory skills soon became indispensable to the party. Hitler pushed for an overhaul of the party structure, replacing the Democratic Committee with a single leader who would have ultimate control, and effectively put himself in control of the reformed Nationalist Socialist German Workers' Party, or the Nazi Party. Hitler soon emerged as a charismatic public speaker and began attracting new members with speeches blaming Jews and Marxists in power and the Weimar Republic for Germany's problems. Hitler gave speech after speech in which he stated that unemployment, rampant inflation, hunger, and economic stagnation in post-war Germany would continue until there was a total revolution in German life. Most problems could be solved, he explained, if communists and Jews were driven from the nation. His fiery speeches swelled the ranks of the Nazi Party, especially the youth of Germany. The infamous movie Jojo Rabbit in 2020 received critical acclaim for portraying two disturbing elements of Holocaust and the part played by Germany's youth. The movie is about Jojo, a 10-year-old member of a Nazi organization for preteens called the Jungvolk, who realizes his mother has been letting a Jewish girl named Elsa hide out in their home. Although the story is fictional, Nazi youth groups like the one Jojo joins were very real. The development of youth organizations meant to groom the future leaders of his Nazi party dated back to the establishment of the party in the early 1920s. The fact that children would be involved in the Nazi regime was clear from the beginning. As Adolf Hitler declared at the annual Nazi Party rally in 1935, "He alone who owns the youth gains the future." In 1936, Hitler banned all youth groups throughout Germany, including the Boy Scouts. In its place, all boys and girls in Nazi Germany were required by law to join a Nazi youth group. All boys over 10 years old joined the Jungvolk, meaning young people, and then graduated to the Hitlerjugend, or the Hitler Youth, when they turned 14. Likewise, girls joined the Jungmädel, which meant young girls, and then graduated to Bund Deutscher Mädel, which meant the League of German Girls, or BDM for short. When Adolf Hitler assumed power in 1933, about 100,000 German children were members of all the organizations combined. By the end of 1936, there were over 5.5 million German children indoctrinated into the Nazi youth. Youths who were discovered not to have joined could be sent to re-education camps, or their parents were fined and imprisoned. For the Nazis, the group had other benefits. Not only did it allow the Third Reich to indoctrinate children at their most impressionable, but it let the Nazis remove them from the influence of their parents, some of whom opposed the regime. The Hitler Youth was a way to get Hitler's ideology into the future of Germany, and some members of the Hitler Youth even denounced their parents when they behaved in ways not approved of by the Reich. Hitler Youth took part in typical scouting-type activities like camping trips, singing, crafts, and hiking. They went to summer camps, wore uniforms, recited pledges, and told stories over campfires. Young German women were indoctrinated with the values of obedience, duty, self-sacrifice, discipline, and physical self-control. The goal of girls in the BDM was to prepare women for motherhood and raise children who would be educated in the ways of Nazi Germany. After the onset of the Second World War, the Hitler Youth organizations were turned into an efficient arm of military police. They imposed military-like order on members and trained young men in everything from weapons to survival. And all groups included hefty doses of propaganda that encouraged an almost religious devotion to the Führer. When youth organizations were banned and disbanded in 1936, a few innocent children could not understand why they cannot go camping with their friends anymore. The Boy Scouts were one of many youth organizations on the Nazis' verboten list. Every non-Jewish boy in Germany was required to be part of the Hitler Youth instead. Max Ebel, a 17-year-old pacifist who distrusted the Nazis, refused and paid the price. As other boys cheered, Max was surrounded by a gang of Nazi youth, one of whom had a knife. His refusal to leave camping and scouting behind had just turned into a fight for his life. In an attempt to intimidate him to join, one of the members stabbed him in the hand. When youth organizations were banned and disbanded in 1936, a few innocent children could not understand why they cannot go camping with their friends anymore. Some boys refused to join the Hitler Youth and took their youth groups underground. One such group, the Edelweiss Pirates, even attacked Hitler Youth members and worked to sabotage their activities. About 5,000 Edelweiss Pirates are thought to have defied the Nazis, scribbled anti-war graffiti on walls, and participated in various types of violent and nonviolent resistance. In 1944, 6 were hanged by the Hitler Youth in Cologne without a trial due to their suspected involvement in the black market. Children who had been saturated in Nazi ideology for years made obedient, fanatical soldiers. Eventually, as the war wore on, those soldiers became younger and younger. Starting in 1943, all boys 17 and older were forced to serve in the military. In 1945, the desperate Nazi leadership began pulling younger boys out of school and sending them to the front facing the torrential demise at the Dents of Berlin. These inexperienced children were essentially conscripted for suicide missions. Those who survived faced harsh treatment at the hands of the Allies who captured them. During the 1936 Nazi Party rally, over 1,000 members of the BDM girl organization got pregnant, leading to a national scandal. Under the pretense of indoctrination to raise purebred German youth, the young BDM girls were incited into physical relations with members of the Hitler Youth as well as officials of the Nazi Party, some of whom were much older. Members of Hitler Youth groups aided the Nazi soldiers in atrocities carried out by the Nazi regime, from ordering Jewish people in Vienna to clean the pavement with toothbrushes or their own hands, to raiding synagogues and destroying sacred Hebrew scrolls and texts. Members of the girls' groups served in administrative positions in Nazi offices, or as nurses' aides, farm laborers, or munitions factory workers. In 1946, Baldur von Schirach, the first leader of the Hitler Youth, and the one responsible for the principles that the youth were indoctrinated in, was convicted of war crimes and sentenced to 20 years in prison. The youth is the easiest part of the population to influence, and the ideologies that were imposed on the German youth took years to change and stabilize the German society. The youth is a key element to the future of the world, and Hitler acted on it to a great extent. In today's day and age, the vulnerability of young people to propaganda is no longer just a matter of historical interest. Stay tuned to find out more about the dark sides of regimes in history. Uncovering the veil over the dark stories of the past, this is Time Capsule. Please like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you don't miss out. Thank you for watching. See you again next time on Time Capsule.